sometimes betrayal comes from the one you trust the most, and when it does, it cuts deeper than any wound. I always believed that marriage was built on trust and love. For years, I thought my husband, Daniel, was my rock, the one person who would always stand by me, protect me, and love me unconditionally. But that night at the hotel shattered every illusion I had so carefully built. It started with small things, missed calls, unexplained meetings, and a growing emotional distance. Daniel, once so attentive, became distracted and cold. He would leave early in the morning and come back late at night, claiming it was work pressure. At first, I believed him. Why wouldn't I? We had been together for years, and he had never given me a reason to doubt him. But then the anonymous message arrived. You need to know the truth. He's not working late, he's with her. My heart raced as I read the text. My hands trembled as I tried to make sense of the words. Who would send me this? Was it a cruel prank? Or was there truth behind it? A sinking feeling settled in my chest, and no matter how much I tried to shake it off, it refused to leave. That night, Daniel came home late, again. His tie was loose, his shirt wrinkled. The scent of unfamiliar perfume clung to his clothes. My heart hammered in my chest as I quietly asked, "Where were you?" He smiled faintly. "Meeting ran late." "Do all meetings smell like Chanel?" I whispered. His smile faded. He turned away without answering. The following week, the messages didn't stop. They became more direct. "Check the Hilton, room 407. My hands shook as I read it. My heart pounded in my ears. This was it. I had to know the truth. That evening, I drove to the hotel, my palms slick with sweat. My chest tightened as I approached the reception desk. "Room 407, please." The receptionist hesitated before handing me the keycard. My breath hitched as I stepped into the elevator. I walked down the hallway, each step heavier than the last. My heart pounded violently against my ribs. My hand trembled as I slid the keycard into the slot. The light turned green. I pushed the door open. And there he was. Daniel sat on the edge of the bed, shirt unbuttoned, tie hanging loosely around his neck. Across from him stood Emily, his colleague. She wore nothing but a silk robe, her lips painted deep red. They both turned toward me, eyes wide. "Anna!" Daniel's voice was calm, too calm. Tears blurred my vision. What is this?" My voice cracked. Emily smirked, brushing her fingers through her dark hair. "Looks like someone got the wrong room." Daniel stood, walking toward me. "It's not what it looks like." His hand reached for mine, but I yanked it away. "Not what it looks like." My voice shook. "You're sitting half-dressed in a hotel room with her." Emily laughed. "Poor Anna. Always so naive." Daniel's expression darkened. "You shouldn't have come here." My chest tightened. "What are you talking about?" "She's been unstable for a while," Emily said, her voice dripping with fake concern. "She's always been jealous. Possessive." My head spun. "What?" Suddenly, 2 hotel staff entered the room. "Ma'am, you need to calm down," one of them said. "What?" My eyes widened. "I'm calm. They're the ones." Daniel shook his head. "Anna, please don't make a scene." "I'm not making a scene." My voice was sharp, trembling. Emily touched Daniel's arm. "It's okay. Just get her some help." The room blurred around me. My hands shook as the staff escorted me out. My mind screamed, how did this happen? How did I become the villain in my own story? Later that night, Daniel returned home. He stood in the doorway, his expression cold. "I think you should stay with your parents for a while." "Are you kidding me?" My voice cracked. "After what you did? You embarrassed me." His tone was sharp. "You need help, Anna." Tears burned my eyes. "You're the one cheating, and now I need help." Emily's voice echoed in my mind. Poor Anna. Always so naive. Days passed in a fog. Gossip spread quickly. Neighbors whispered. Friends stopped calling. Daniel's version of the story had spread. Anna's unstable. Jealous. She created a scene at the hotel. I sat alone in the dark, clutching a photo of us on our wedding day. His smile in that picture seemed so genuine. Was it all a lie? How long had he been playing me? How long had they been laughing behind my back? One evening, Daniel came home early. His eyes were cold as he placed divorce papers in front of me. "Sign them." "Why?" My voice was hollow. "It's for the best." I stared at the papers. My mind raced. He had taken everything. My dignity, my reputation, my trust. And now, he wanted to take my future too. Emily stood behind him, a faint smile on her lips. It's time to let go, Anna. My hand trembled as I held the pen. I glanced at Daniel, no trace of love in his eyes. Just cold detachment. Slowly, I put the pen down. I'm not done yet, I whispered. Daniel's brow furrowed. Anna! I stood, straightening my back. You think you've won? You think I'm weak? My eyes burned with new resolve. You stole my dignity. You ruined my name. But you forgot one thing. Emily's smile faded. What? My lips curled into a cold smile. I learned fast. As I walked away, I knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The pain of betrayal fades, but the fire it ignites burns forever. The days after that humiliating night at the hotel passed in a haze of anger and disbelief. Daniel had not only betrayed me, but also turned the story around, making me the villain. People who once smiled at me now looked away. Friends who used to check in on me suddenly stopped answering my calls. The damage was done, and Daniel had orchestrated it perfectly. But I wasn't going to let it end this way. I sat in my parents' house, surrounded by the cold emptiness of my childhood room. My mother tried to console me, but nothing could fill the void left by Daniel's betrayal. Every night, I lay awake, replaying the scene at the hotel in my mind. Emily's smug smile. Daniel's cold gaze. The sound of my own heart shattering. One evening, my mother entered my room and sat on the edge of the bed. Anna, you need to stop torturing yourself, she said softly. I can't, I whispered. They took everything from me. Then take it back. Her words settled deep in my chest. Take it back. How? I was humiliated, abandoned, and left with nothing but the ashes of my marriage. But maybe that was exactly where I needed to start. I took a deep breath and reached for my phone. If Daniel and Emily thought they had won, they were about to learn just how wrong they were. The first step was gathering information. Daniel had always been careful about his business dealings, but I had been married to him long enough to know his patterns. He had weaknesses, and Emily was one of them. I remembered the way he looked at her that night, the possessiveness in his eyes. He wasn't just cheating, he was deeply invested in her. I started by calling an old friend who worked at Daniel's company. Rachel, I need a favor, I said, my voice steady. Rachel hesitated. Anna, I'm not supposed to. I need to know about Daniel's recent projects. Anything suspicious. Please. A long pause. Then a sigh. Okay. I'll see what I can find. A few days later, Rachel called back. Anna, you were right, she said, her voice tense. Daniel's been moving money, large amounts, into offshore accounts. And Emily's name is tied to it. My heart hammered. Are you sure? Positive. It's shady, Anna. If this gets out, it could ruin him. My fingers tightened around the phone. Send me everything you have. Rachel hesitated. What are you planning to do? Just trust me, I said, a dangerous calm settling over me. That evening, I opened the documents Rachel had sent. Transactions, shell companies, hidden accounts. Daniel had built a carefully constructed house of cards. And Emily was right at the center of it. If I exposed this, not only would Daniel's reputation crumble, but Emily's carefully crafted image would shatter alongside it. But I needed more. Evidence that couldn't be denied. I waited until Daniel left for work the next morning. Using the spare key I still had, I entered the house we once shared. The emptiness hit me hard. The framed wedding pictures were gone. Emily had already begun erasing me from Daniel's life. I went to Daniel's office and turned on his computer. His password hadn't changed. He always used the date of his company's founding. Pathetic. I scanned his emails. One in particular stood out. Transfer complete. Emily will handle the rest. Attached was a document showing a transfer of $500,000. My chest tightened. The sound of a car pulling into the driveway made me freeze. My heart raced as I quickly forwarded the emails to myself and deleted the traces. I slipped out the back door just as Daniel entered the house. My hands trembled as I drove away. Later that evening, Rachel called again. Anna, there's more, she said. Emily's been using Daniel's accounts to fund her personal ventures. If this comes out, they're both going down. I smiled coldly. Perfect. It wasn't enough to expose them. I needed to make sure they felt the consequences. I arranged a meeting with Daniel's biggest business rival, James Carter. He had been waiting for a chance to take Daniel down. When I walked into the upscale restaurant, James's eyes widened. "Anna, I didn't expect you." "I have something you'll want to see," I said, sliding the documents across the table. His eyes darkened as he scanned the files. "This is explosive," he said. "Yes, and it's real." James smiled. "What do you want in return?" "Take down Daniel." "Publicly." James leaned back, his smile sharp. "Consider it done." The next day, the headlines exploded. "Scandal exposed. Daniel's offshore accounts and shady business deals uncovered." Daniel's reputation was in flames. Reporters swarmed his office. Emily's name was mentioned in every article. The company's stock plummeted overnight. Daniel called me that evening, his voice sharp. "Anna, what did you do?" I smiled. "What you deserved. You ruined me." "No, Daniel," I said calmly. "You ruined yourself." A pause. Then his voice dropped. "This isn't over." "Yes, it is." I hung up, feeling the weight of years of betrayal lifting from my shoulders. The next day, Emily was spotted leaving Daniel's house with her bags packed. She hadn't signed up for this level of destruction. Daniel was left alone to face the fallout. I stood by the window of my parents' house, watching the sun rise. I had lost my marriage, my reputation, but not myself. Daniel had underestimated me. He thought I would crumble under the weight of his betrayal. He forgot that betrayal creates strength. And I was just getting started. Fear sharpens the mind, but betrayal fuels the soul. The fallout from Daniel's scandal spread like wildfire. His company's stocks were in free fall. The press hounded him at every turn, questioning his financial dealings and connection with Emily. Meanwhile, Emily had vanished, distancing herself from Daniel the moment things turned ugly. Loyalty was never part of her game. But Daniel wasn't the only one facing the heat. My name was starting to circulate through the media. Whispers about how I might have played a role in exposing the scandal were growing louder. Some painted me as a bitter ex-wife seeking revenge. Others saw me as a hero for bringing Daniel's corrupt empire down. The truth didn't matter. The damage was done. I sat alone in a quiet cafe, the hum of city noise filtering through the windows. My phone buzzed. Rachel's name lit up the screen. "Anna, are you okay?" she asked. "I'm fine," I said, though my heart raced. "You need to be careful," Rachel warned. "Daniel's desperate. He's looking for someone to blame." "I know. And Emily, she'll come back when it's convenient for her," I said coldly. "But Daniel won't be able to protect her this time." Rachel hesitated. "Anna, you're not done yet, are you?" "No," I said softly. "Not even close." I ended the call and left the cafe. My next step was already in motion. Daniel had lost everything. His business, his reputation, but not his pride. That was the final piece I needed to break. I arrived at a high-end hotel where Daniel often held meetings. I knew he would be there. He had no choice but to scramble for support. Stepping into the marble lobby, I adjusted my coat and approached the reception desk. "Excuse me, which room is Daniel in?" The receptionist hesitated, recognizing my face from the news. "I'm sorry, but I can't." "I'm his wife," I interrupted with a soft smile. Or at least I was. After a pause, the receptionist gave me the room number. I took the elevator to the top floor and knocked once. The door opened almost instantly. Daniel stood there, his face pale and tired. "Anna," he said, his voice strained. "What are you doing here?" "Checking in," I replied, stepping past him into the suite. "Nice place. Expensive, even after losing half your assets." His jaw tightened. "What do you want?" I turned, meeting his gaze. "The truth." Daniel laughed bitterly. "You already know the truth." "No," I said, stepping closer. "I know what you did to me. What I want to know is why." His eyes darkened. "You think you were innocent in all of this?" I raised an eyebrow. "Explain." "You were always so perfect, Anna," Daniel sneered. "So controlled. Everything about you was predictable. Do you have any idea how suffocating that was?" I swallowed the wave of anger rising in my chest. "So you decided to humiliate me? Cheat on me? With her?" "Emily wasn't the reason," Daniel said, his voice sharp. "She was just convenient." "And framing me for the scandal? Was that convenient too? Daniel's gaze narrowed. You were never supposed to fight back. You were supposed to leave, quietly disappear. I stepped even closer until our faces were inches apart. Well, you miscalculated. For the first time, Daniel's expression cracked. He looked scared. You think this is over, he said quietly. I still have connections. You have no idea what I'm capable of. I smiled coldly. Neither do you. I turned and walked toward the door. You won't win, Daniel called after me. I already have, I said without looking back. The elevator doors slid shut behind me. My hands were shaking, but my resolve had never been stronger. Daniel's threat didn't scare me, not anymore. If he wanted to play dirty, I was ready. The next morning, Rachel sent me a message. Check the news. I opened my phone. The headline read, Emily's business deals under investigation, tied to Daniel's financial scandal. A surge of satisfaction coursed through me. Emily had thought she could slip away unnoticed. Wrong. Later that afternoon, my phone rang. It was Emily. I answered with a smirk. Emily. Anna, she said, her voice shaking. What did you do? I just exposed the truth. You've ruined me. Funny, I said. That's exactly what you tried to do to me. You're going to pay for this. I already did. I hung up. That evening, Daniel showed up at my parents' house. He was standing outside when I pulled into the driveway. His suit was rumpled, his hair a mess. What do you want? I asked, stepping out of the car. He moved toward me. Anna, we can fix this. I laughed. You really think I'd give you another chance? I made a mistake, he said, his voice raw. But you and we're done, I said coldly. You don't get to rebuild your life using me. Daniel's eyes flashed with desperation. You need me. I needed you once, I said, and you destroyed me. Now I don't need anything from you. I turned to walk away. Daniel grabbed my arm. Anna, please. I yanked free from his grip. Goodbye, Daniel. I walked toward the house without looking back. I could feel his gaze burning into my back, but I didn't stop. I didn't hesitate. I was free. Rachel called later that night. It's over, Anna, she said. Daniel and Emily are both done. No one will touch them after this. Good, I said. Let them feel what it's like to lose. You should feel proud. I smiled. I'm not done yet. I stood by the window, watching the city lights flicker in the distance. Daniel thought he could destroy me. Emily thought she could replace me. They were both wrong. I had taken back my power, and I wasn't letting go. Sometimes revenge isn't loud. It's the quiet satisfaction of watching your enemies crumble. The fallout from Daniel and Emily's scandal was swift and merciless. Their empire was collapsing piece by piece. News channels were relentless. Reports of financial fraud, backdoor deals, and Emily's shady business connections flooded the headlines. Investors pulled out, clients backed away, and Daniel's once flawless reputation was in shambles. I watched it all unfold from the comfort of my apartment. A glass of wine in my hand, the city lights glittering outside the window. Rachel sat across from me, scrolling through her phone. Emily's name is trending again, Rachel said, smirking. Apparently, the authorities have frozen her assets. Good, I said. She deserves it. And Daniel. I sipped my wine. He's next. Rachel's eyes narrowed. What's the plan? I set my glass down. He's desperate right now. Vulnerable. That's when people make the biggest mistakes. Rachel's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and raised an eyebrow. Speak of the devil. Daniel just posted a statement. I leaned forward as Rachel read aloud. I apologize to those I have disappointed. I will be stepping back from my position to focus on personal matters. I ask for privacy during this time. I laughed. Classic damage control. Rachel chuckled. He thinks he can still recover from this. He's wrong, I said, standing up. He doesn't know what's coming next. The next day, Daniel called me. Anna, his voice was strained, tired. We need to talk. About? I asked casually. You know about what? He said sharply. Meet me. Why should I? His breath hitched. Please. Against my better judgment, I agreed. Not because I owed him anything, but because I wanted to see him break. We met at a quiet restaurant downtown. Daniel was already there when I arrived, sitting in a booth near the back. He looked terrible, dark circles under his eyes. his suit slightly wrinkled. For the first time, he seemed human. Weak. I slid into the seat across from him. Daniel! Anna! He said, his voice low. I know you were behind this. I smiled. Behind what? Don't play games with me, he hissed. The leaked documents, the investigation, you set me up. I leaned back, crossing my arms. Funny. I thought you were the master of setting people up. Daniel's hands curled into fists. Do you have any idea what you've done? Yes, I said coolly. I gave you exactly what you deserved. His eyes narrowed. Emily's gone. She took off the moment the scandal broke. Shocking, I said sarcastically. Did you really think she loved you? He flinched. You were always so cold, Anna. So calculating. No, I said. I was loyal. I was patient. I gave you everything, and you repaid me with betrayal. Daniel's gaze darkened. It wasn't supposed to go this far. But it did. I leaned forward, my eyes piercing into his. You chose her over me. You humiliated me. You framed me. Did you really think I'd just disappear? He was quiet for a long moment. What do you want from me? I smiled faintly. Nothing. Nothing. I already have what I want, I said. Your downfall. Daniel's face twisted with frustration. You won't get away with this. I laughed softly. Get away with what? Telling the truth. He was shaking now, his breath uneven. You loved me once. Yes, I admitted. And you ruined that. Daniel's expression softened. I made a mistake. No, Daniel, I said coldly. You made a choice. I stood up. Goodbye, Daniel. He reached for my hand. Anna, please. I pulled away. We're done. I left the restaurant, my heart pounding in my chest. I had imagined that moment so many times, confronting him, taking back my power, but it didn't feel as sweet as I'd thought. Revenge was satisfying, yes, but it wasn't closure. The next day, Rachel called. You won't believe it, she said, breathless. Daniel's company just announced bankruptcy. My breath hitched. Already? Their investors pulled out this morning. It's over, Anna. It was over. Later that night, Daniel showed up at my apartment. His suit was wet from the rain, his hair clinging to his forehead. Anna, he said, his voice hollow. What are you doing here? I lost everything, he said. I need you. I shook my head. You lost me a long time ago. I know, he whispered. But can we fix this? My chest tightened. You don't get to ask for that. Please. His eyes were glassy with desperation. I don't have anyone else. I sighed. That's not my problem. Daniel's shoulders sagged. He ran a hand through his damp hair, his jaw tightening. I thought you'd come back. You were wrong. He looked at me one last time, and for a moment, I saw the man I had once loved before the lies, before the betrayal. But that man was long gone. I closed the door. Rachel called the next morning. So how does it feel? Strange, I admitted. You won, Anna. Yeah, I said, smiling faintly. I guess I did. That evening, I sat on my balcony watching the sunset. Daniel's chapter in my life was officially over. The pain, the betrayal, it had shaped me, but it didn't define me anymore. I was free.